Okay, I just saw the Amazing Digital Circus movie yesterday. I'm recording this now, and I'm gonna release the video after the movie comes out on YouTube, just so that everyone has a fair chance to see it before I talk about it. And now these are a bunch of initial thoughts that I have about the movie. Of course, I'll go over it again after I've had time to think, and I do want to go back through the show and talk about things now that we have everything, all the finality of the conclusion. So I can actually properly look at the characters now, because I didn't want to go through anything too soon. Anyway, I'm gonna kind of briefly summarize events that happened in the movie, and I'll focus more on the things that I want to talk about, and I'll give some concluding thoughts later. Alright, you guys ready? Let's go. Okay, right away, we had an appearance from the Zach Hadelfish again, to let you know, turn off your phones and all that. I thought that was cool. The characters, they learn in the movie, this takes place immediately after episode 8. They learn, from Kinger that they were digital cop of their human selves, and everyone's freaking out over it, and Jax has a whole crash out, though, there you go, you finally found it out. And he's mad that that everyone kept pushing for the truth, and they all kind of knew it somewhere in the back of their minds. They had a feeling, but hearing it from Kinger, that it just got solidified there, I think it hurt. Pomni struggles to try to keep everyone happy, and they all have to they all walk off on their own directions to try to process what's going on. And Kinger is the one that goes to try to start rebuilding the circus. Pomni wants to help, and she can't quite make the same things that he can, but he reassures her that everything she's been doing has been it's been great for them. She adapted quickly to getting here. She has been super positive for everyone, and she's resilient. She's a strong character. Everyone else took months to get integrated, but she only took a couple days. And after he reassures her, the characters, they start rebuilding the circus. Pomni and him start doing exercises together to make shape, and then the others slowly start coming back, like Ragatha, Zubul, Gangle, and Jax isolates himself from everyone. Jax isolates Pomni from all of them. He just watches them from afar, and then we eventually get Pomni voicing over a clip of him walking away, and she says how she regrets not reaching out to him sooner, because now we see that he finally abstracts. Gangle can't cry for him. She feels guilt for that. And yeah, I want to say, I think Abstraction is pretty clearly a taking your own life metaphor. I had a feeling that it was gonna be something like that when I think around episode 7 or 8 that that started to kind of click for me, because I had all my theories about what Abstraction was supposed to be, and I think it you could kind of feel it early on, but the more we saw it, Jax starting to freak out and get worse, it became pretty clear that Abstraction was a form of self-harm. And Gangle and everyone talking here is so much a reflection of how people talk about a friend that's recently taken their own life. Gangle wants to cry but can't feel bad for him, and there's this overwhelming guilt that she has for that. Zubul's reaction is more of an angry reaction to the death, even though he is also in flight. Jax let it get to that extent, never reached out to them, kept trying to be aloof, or was probably still trying to mock them and keep pushing them away. And it was just so in line with the character that he built up for himself. Zubul's upset that it was just so, everything is just so something that he would do, and he wishes Jax would have just broken character for a moment to help him. And Ragatha very much blames herself for what happened. She's the one who feels like she was responsible for how everything went down, because she tells Pomni that there was a character named Ribbit that Jax close with, and then after she abstracted, Jax made Ragatha promise to never talk about them again, and she makes that promise, but that was kind of the tipping point of their relationship, their friendship, that he started to resent her, feel like she was holding that over his head. And then we get a heart to heart with Pomni and Ragatha, where she tells her you're strong, you don't need to feel that you're responsible for that, you did what you could, we need each other now. And they have a really sweet moment. If they become canon, or if it is implied that they're canon, I really like that ship personally. And then after they part ways and they keep their eyes on each other, I really can. Pomni goes on her way to go catch Jax in the dark and to learn his lore and try to understand him better. The doors in his mind show how Jax perceives all of the characters and how he exaggerates their traits. Zubul is a cartoony, weird. He's a cartoonish classic sort of character with a Wile E. Coyote type thing going on, and Jax sees Gangle as the anime-obsessed dork who has a crush on the guy who's bullying her. Or there was the first one, creepier one. I can't quite tell if that's Pomni or Ragatha that is being reflected there. It could be both. Pretty sure it is Pomni though, and how he perceives her as like an exaggeration of her fear. In the final, or the almost final room, we see all the variants of Jax. We learn that he only knows a couple songs on piano too. And the other selves ruthlessly bully his softer side and call him like queer slurs. And eventually like Pomni gets them all away, and the sensitive Jax gives her the key to go through the Jax door, which is where we see flashbacks of his circus life. We learn how he was guilty, thinking that he killed his mother after he came out to her, and she degraded him with all these like horrible words that she called him and laughed at him for what he opened up with. And then at the end of it all, she hugged him as if she cared about him, loved, shoved her away. She fell to the ground, and he thought that he killed her, and he was afraid of that, and he ran away. He became homeless for a time until putting on the headset, and that's when his brain got scanned and all that. But I just want to say, like, oh my god, that scene is so real. Anyways, terrified at first after he puts on the headset, he eventually befriends Kaufmo and Ribbit, who he becomes close with very quickly. We had like a compilation of them hanging out, like having like drinks together, making jokes, all that stuff. And then we see Jax in Ribbit's room, and they open up to him about their life for the circus, as sort of a trust bonding thing. And Jax is reserved. He doesn't want to say anything, but she just tells him like, oh, well, trust me, something like that. And Jax does eventually open up to her about his life before the circus. They assure him that the secret is safe then. The bow on the head, I think that was a pretty clear hint towards the facts that Jack trans. I'm glad they never outright say it, because I think it's good that you can represent it without outright saying it. And I know it's a very heavy like trans femme Jax implication, but I do kind of like that they don't fully say it like which way he has to be, because I've always liked the idea that you can interpret him either way. I know in one of my reviews I very heavily wanted to relate him being trans masked, and that's just because of my personal experience, what I understand best. But I like that these characters can be sort of openly interpreted for whoever relates to them. I like that idea a lot. Anyway, that vulnerability felt like too much, and also like Jack saying that he didn't feel like man enough, and then when he acted more mannish, he was being like his father. The man enough thing, I feel like that can definitely be for either way. It's like trans femme, and it's like if you aren't out, you're probably feeling like you're not enough of a man. I can't understand why, because you're not. And then if you're trans mask, it becomes a thing of like trying to prove yourself. The thing is, manhood, so difficult to just be the ideal image of a man. Gender is a whole discussion that I won't get into right now, but I do think there's a lot with people's perception of it. In general, people, I will say. Anyway, that vulnerability was too much, and Jax tries to push away any emotional closeness he had with them and leaves her room, tells her to not say. And after that, he keeps finding ways to avoid them, to like find an excuse to get away, or to like talk to someone else. And this kind of pushes Ribbit, like Ribbit's confused as to why he won't talk to her anymore, and they have this like horrible fight in the snow adventure where he's like shouting at her, and they're both yelling to try to like get their points across, but they're not listening to each other. And like the way he just kept pushing her to leave him alone, that eventually boils up inside of her. Like she can't understand why they aren't friends anymore, and why he's saying there's nothing between them, that there was never anything, and it was all just a joke. It was all just a character. Ribbit eventually abstracts after being pushed away so much, and like made to question if there was ever a bond that they had. And again, such like a clear metaphor for taking one's own life. And Jax could have probably helped. He could have done something, but every time he went to their door, he didn't go in until it was too late, and they had already abstracted. Like he was terrified of the thing running around. I mean, anyone would be. And Kaufmo also, like, eventually is the next one to track, because he starts talking about finding an exit, and Jack dismisses it as him being crazy and laughs it off. And then that's when we see Kaufmo abstract. Jax runs, and he says, "You're not looking too good." He's talking down to himself in the mirror, and he blames himself for everything. You know, like, Rivet was because of his inaction, and then Kaufmo because of his action. I mean, both are kind of his own actions, but, you know, Rivet, he pushed her towards it, and then could have done something it didn't. And then we see like through his perspective that Pomni was the next person that he would have gotten close to. And after learning about it all, we get the scene that objectively I think was the most emotional. And again, came at the perfect time for me. I don't know, the day I saw this, I was just not doing good at all. Jax stands alone in the dark next to a red light. And now that Pomni knows everything, he feels like she's gonna hold it again. Kind of how he felt like Ragatha would hold the closeness that he had with Ribbit against him over her abstraction. That Pomni is now gonna hold everything he did in his life against him. That opening up to Ribbit was a mistake, and now that the truth is out, the cycle is doomed to repeat. He's angry that she won't leave him alone to isolate, because abstraction is easier to do alone. You don't have anyone to care about. No one wants you around. Everyone's upset with you. Like if he had just been able to push everyone away, if everything in his life was ruined and there was no way to recover from the self-destruction, then he would have just been able to go through with it and not feel guilty. Pomni doesn't allow it though. She keeps stepping forward through the waters to reach him and eventually embrace him. And no matter what, she won't let him go. Even if he thinks it's too late for him, he wants her to just stop so that he can end it. But she tells him like it's not too late. If you want, talk to me now. Like it's never too late. Still do something about it now. Just let me be there for you. And he eventually turns around to embrace her, tells her that he hates her. And he tells her that he hates her and that she's complicating everything. And she's okay with it because she knows that it's gonna be hard to help him. And I don't know, that hit home, like how resentful he became of her because because she was becoming his reason to stay around. Like he becomes resentful because of like not abstracting means having to live another day. It means having to be in your own body still. It means having to be stuck with your thoughts. And even though abstracting seems like the easier route, even though everything seems like pointless, like you're stuck in a prison, no hope or no escape, living means getting to experience what life could have been or where it could take you, what could get better. And when Jack starts panicking, trying to refuse her help again, and he's hyperventilating and he tries to push himself back into that isolation, she tells him to stay here. And it's such like a beautiful scene, even if sadly Jax will never be free from his abstracted form, or as far as we know, probably won't. He went fully over the edge. I think that's the implication of what the flashbang tells us. And the others rope out Pomni just before it gets too bad. Like they tell her that they weren't gonna let her do it all on her own. It's pretty clear why. I mean, Pomni, after interacting with him, we can see the damage that it's done. And I think it's really crucial that they represent that here too, that someone in such an awful mental state is going to scar you as well. Trying to understand someone who's in such a negative headspace is going to mess you up. You're gonna need recovery time. You're gonna need help too if you go through with that. And of course, the hurtful things that Jax was saying too. In the end, we see them wrangle up Jax and put him in a dark tent so that he's. Wait, there's more. And I had called it. Caine is still alive. His deletion was more so of a way to move him into the void. There, he's forced to reflect upon everything that he did. He realizes that they're not things for him to create and to control. That his overbearing presence hurt the humans more than help them. Like, they're people with their own souls, their own mind, their own goal, their own will to be creative. Keeping them under such harsh control, forcing them to follow his carefully, meticulously planned events is hurting them. His corrupt side is still bitter, resenting their kind for creating him in the way that they did. And he's angry and terrified at the same time that the humans could have the power to destroy him whenever they want. Though he didn't ask to be born, this existence is something that he's made something out of. He's made purpose for himself, and he doesn't want to just destroy. He's found purpose in a meaningless existence, and it's not something he takes lightly. It would be such a shame for him to lose all that progress now. But he learns to accept. He can see that he was not responsible with the free will that he was given, that he robbed the other AI of a chance to experience what he did, and so he frees it. And there's this really touching scene where he makes the journey to the brain scans to be able to see what their lives are like now. We see both him and an abstract version of him in the scene where he's climbing up, and slowly, as he breaks through the barriers, he does become more human in appearance in the abstract form. it kind of reflects how he's understanding them more and how he's becoming more human himself in a way. He finds all their real counterparts, their social medias, and he returns to the circus. And now that he has all the information, he's about to go back in and he's nervous, but the moon assures him that even though it's going to take time for them to accept him again, that they'll eventually come around. And Caine finally goes back into the tent, but not before the moon says, "I love you." And then Caine is like, "I never programmed you to say that," and Moon says, "I know." I think that's just so sweet. Like, even if the humans will never give him the love that he desires, that at least there's another AI in here that will understand him more than the humans ever will, and that does reciprocate his love and appreciation. When he returns to the circus, the humans are afraid of him. Zubul is protective of Gangle, and they're canon at this point, but Caine kind of shares with them what he reflected upon when he was in the void, and he's remorseful of how he did everything and how he hurt them, but if they're willing to accept him once again, he's willing to let them have more creative control over the circus and to be the ones that make their home their home. And Zubul tells him, like, we're all still upset at you, but we're glad to have you back, because in the end they still do care about him, still friends with him, and I just think it's so sweet. And he takes him to the stage, or he tells them to join him there when they're ready, and he shows them a presentation of all their human lives and how they've all improved since they put on the headset. And the real humans, they've all finally gotten to achieve their goals. Like, Pomni's gotten her channel going, Ragatha finally got away from her mother, Jax is now like stably living, Zubul's a bartender, and Gangle's got her manga up, and Kinger, like, he's a happy dad now, and it's just so sweet to see how they've all improved. And we do learn their real names too. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but you know, when I talk about the characters individually or whatever I decide to talk about, like, I'll say their names in those videos. But after all that, like, they're finally satisfied with seeing that they did get better in real life, and they can now just be the characters that they are. Like, Caine refers to Pomni with her human name, but she's happy to just be Pom, because they've finally gone through this journey together. They finally got like the conclusive knowledge that they wanted about their human selves, and they can move on and they can be their own person now, essentially. And we get like a compilation, a sweet little showing of how like the humans are adding ideas to the circus and Caine's rebuilding it, and like Gangle is drawing with Caine, which is crazy. I had a dream about that. I had a dream about the ending having something to do with Caine wanting to draw with Gangle. I can't believe I predicted that, guys. I'm predicting so much. But in the end, too, they end it the same way that episode 1 ended, with a dinner scene, and they're all happy this time. Like, no one's feeling the dread. And also the abstractions are now swimming under the circus as giant whales, essentially. And they seem a lot calmer. I think the implication at the end, too, you know, like, it's sad to not see everyone come back. I thought when Scratch was on the stage, when that scene was shown, I thought that was Caine, like, remaking them all and bringing them back. But I think maybe that's the implication, is that at some point in the future they're gonna find a way to bring back the abstracted human brain scans, and then like they'll all be able to live together with a bigger community, which would be nice. It would be kind of sweet if like more people were still able to join the characters. That's not the point. Like, I thought the movie was... I've heard people are upset with the way that it ended, and I think they kind of missed the point of the show if they're upset with the way things went. I'm a huge fan of Zubul and Gangle. I don't think that they needed more focus than they got, because I think it was pretty clear that they were supposed to be side characters, and Jax was definitely started as a side character, but gearing him more towards a main character I think was the right move, because it's clear Goose had like messages that she wanted to get across with the show. A big one being like, I imagine that was a very personal like experience for her, that like Jax's whole backstory, there was probably a lot there that was about her own how it was doing that. And then like, I know Gangle has a reflection of Goose's life when she was working in fast food, and like Zubul, as much as I want to see more on his life, I think Zubul is like someone who's more secure in their identity, even though they feel dysphoria, like they can come to terms with it. And I think the point is that they're supposed to parallel Jax in that sense. Like, Jax has the dysphoria but can't accept it, and that's part of the reason that he like hates him so much, or I guess she hates him. him. I don't know. Everyone in the show used he him for Jack still, and I feel like you could probably use it interchangeably depending on whichever way you perceive Jax. Kinger I didn't think needed too much more than what he got. Like, he was the programmer, and I think his character did very well. Very happy to see that he was a girl dad, as everyone theorized he was. And I think Pomni's development was like really well done. Man, sorry, I said I was gonna have more to say, and I kind of just summarized the movie. But a big theme was clearly like the theme of taking your own life. That's such a silly way to say it, but that was like a big thing for the movie, and like that was so beautifully done. Like the way that the awareness was spread, the way that they show the characters dealing with it and how they cope with it and all that. And I don't know, the ending made me happy. It's like the show's like message was to find meaning in a life that's mundane. Like, even if your life feels like an endless cycle, an endless loop, you can still find a way to enjoy it. And the characters, they all have linear developments. They all like eventually become better than what they started as, or they go on the arc, and eventually they're different than how we saw them at the beginning. And I think that was really like beautiful. I don't know. I'll have better, more in-depth thoughts, I'm sure, when I go through them all individually. I'm not very good with doing overall thoughts on things, because this show was just so packed full of old meaning. Goose's exploration of like the way that Goose wanted to make the show. I remember her saying that she started it mostly as like an art project to see what she could do with animation and like 3D modeling and stuff and whatnot. But like the way that everything got put in the story and like characters got developed, it was so profound to me. And I don't know, maybe a big thing with that is just like they didn't set out with that goal in mind. They just genuinely had things to share, and it was beautiful. It was a wonderful experience, and I'm sure once I go through the show again with all of the conclusive information that we have from the movie, that I'll have a lot more to say about like individual topics that are explored in the show. But that's my overall thoughts on the movie. Like, I thought it was great. I'm sure there's probably plot holes that people are upset with and that weren't addressed, but to me, I don't know if they matter all that much, because I think what Goose wanted to get across was well done. Anyway, thank you for listening. Sorry if this was kind of mostly like a summary of the movie. I hope I put my thoughts in well enough. Again, I'm glad that Caine turned out to be someone who wasn't like malicious at heart, that it was more of just like his bitterness and his jealousy just kept getting worse, and it went unchecked for so long, and like he had to reel himself back in. I'll rewatch this movie when it comes out on YouTube, because I feel like during the movie I was a little bit distracted. Like, my theater was kind of a bit noisy, and it kind of took me out of the experience a bit, so I wasn't able to reflect on it properly or like process what I was feeling. There was just a lot in that, and now like I feel like when I go through the show again, there's probably going to be a lot more layers that I take the second time around, third time around. I don't know how many times I've rewatched the show, but yeah. Thank you for listening again. Now that the show's over, I want to make a lot more videos talking about it. I've been holding back because I knew this would be something that I just could not talk about till we had everything. I hate making theories. I hate being too early, rushing things, whatever. Anyways, sorry, I know I was making it sound like I was going to conclude this a few times. My question of the day, like, what did you get from them? What meaning did you glimpse from? Memberships are available if you want to support the channel in that way, get early access to videos. And yeah, I'll see you guys next. Love you.